Brad Sullivan and welcome to Sully Stitch. So you've made the decision, you've got your embroidery machine, and so you're ready for setup. So let's get started. All right, before we get started, I think it's important to note that if you have a surge protector or if you do not have a surge protector, to buy one before plugging in and turning on your machine to protect your investment from any electrical surges or any storms. Please bear with me. I do not have an extra hand right now, so I'll hold my phone as still as possible, and I will also talk as slow as I can. So upon unboxing your embroidery machine, this tray will be about this height. You will want to make sure that these are loosened so you can raise this tray to its height, and these tubes will be out to length. You will then want to tighten these to secure it. Then you will notice there is a bunch of embroidery threads that are all tied together. They come unloose fairly easy and they are already pre-run. So you can take and find the one that is number one and then take your spool and tie it together and then pull it through the system. I still believe that it is important to know how to run these through in case you run into a thread that comes all the way through, and it will also help you have a understanding of how the thread is running through your machine for thread breaks and for tensioning and how it's all running through it all into the needle. So let's focus on number one. Let's say that I have the thread, the beginning of the thread right here, and I'm running it up through the slot. You will see that I have, it'll be three big eyelets right here. It'll be number one, number two, and number three. They are alternating, so the second spool will not have the third. It'll start 1, 2, and then it'll go back to the 1, 2, 3, and then it'll be 1, 2. And all that is, it is corresponding to the position of the thread spools underneath. So back to number one, we will have where we ran it through number one, we ran the thread through number two, and then we ran the thread through number three. And as we get past number three, there will be a little small one that we need to run it through. And as we walk around, and before I put my phone on the stand to explain the rest of the system, I think it's important to note this top tension when we run it through is there's this little slot that the thread needs to run through. Sorry, let me straighten my camera. So if you have smaller fingers, you can kind of push it through, make sure that it's running through there properly, or you can take a little screwdriver or something, kind of push it back to make sure that it's up in there. And so I will be right back with the phone on the stand to explain the rest of the thread running through your embroidery head. We left off at this top tension where we just run the thread through. Now we need to remove this tube. So you just pull up and pop it off, and then pull away from the embroidery head and pop this off. So then you should have this little thin rod, and you can see this little thread capture on one end of it. So we'll take this and we need to run it through this tube. And then once it's through, we will pull the thread through this part, this little U part, okay? And then we will pull down to run this thread through. And then kind of give yourself a little extra. So we will snap it back on, the top and the bottom, and now we will proceed to a tension knob that was similar to this one. So the same thing, we've got to make sure that it gets back in there and seated in that little slot that's inside there. Okay? You can always glance in there if you want by lifting this up. So this is the thread break sensor wheel. So we need to take this thread right on the inside, this little plastic piece, and then run it around one time. So right there, one time. And then it goes down into the next tension. So the same thing, take it, and there's the little plastic slot. You want to have it run right through there one time. Okay, the only difference between running it from here around one time and straight down, when we run here, we run it around one time, but we have to go up a half a turn to get it and drop it on this side of this metal U piece. So you can see how I can pull on it. Once we do that, there's 3 eyelets that we're going to run down right here. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So next is we are now in the area of the needle bars. So on the inside where it slants up, there is a small eyelet. So we need to run it through that one first. And then we'll go up and run it through the needle bar hole. And then back down into an eyelet that's just straight down, dropping straight down through it. Okay, so I will change the angle of the camera and I will give some tips and tricks on how releasing areas that keep this closed and how to open it and how to properly thread your needle. I will be right back. Okay, we drop straight down through that eyelet. The next step is to thread it through this white circle and then down to the needle. Okay, so what you first need to look for is there's this little stainless steel piece that sticks out. If you look at these other little ones right here, if you can see, they're all flush, they're flat. That means that they are closed. This one is open. If it is closed, then on the stainless steel box that's on the side, just push the little black button down and it will open it up. Now that it's open, you want to take your thin little rod that you had before that you used for the tube above, and then you just run it straight up, capture the thread, and then straight down. Now you will want to push your thread back behind this little little metal U. This helps keep that thread traveling straight down through your needle. Okay, so what I like to do is, I don't know if you can see the thread, it just got a little fray, and it does this a decent amount of, so what you want to do is to have a clean cut to run it through that needle. The easiest is just to trim it. Okay, so then we will go right through the needle. All right. Sometimes it's easier than other times. And then this little underneath that needle where it makes contact with the needle plate, you just want to drop this through. And then it doesn't matter if it's on this side of the needle or it's on the other side of the needle, okay? And then right here, the spring is there for you just to get your thread out of the way as you're threading, okay? And then I like to trim it. I used to trim it really low, but I've found that it's a good reference point right above this bar. You want this long enough so whenever it does trim, it's able to be long enough for it to capture it inside this trimming bar area. All right, so next we will move over and we'll look at the touchscreen and how to make sure that your threads are communicating properly with the system. All right, after you have all of your spools run through the embroidery machine and down through your needles, you will want to come over to the software and make sure that it's communicating properly. So my number one is white. I went ahead and changed it to purple for demonstration purposes. So I need to go change it back to white. So I'll go to config, and then I'll go to my colors and I'll run through all the pages until I find the white, and then I change it back and I hit save. So you can change any of these colors to whatever spool colors you have. So if my number one was purple and it ran through my needle number one, I need to make sure my needle number one is purple. I hope that was helpful. On my next video, I'll be covering bobbins. Bobbins are one of the early on frustrations that I faced. I did a lot of research, watching YouTube videos and reading forums. And so simply put, the bobbins are the Achilles heel for embroidery, and they can really cause a lot of problems if you don't have them performing properly. So it took communicating with the buy engineer to finally get really a strong understanding of how it all works. So I look forward to sharing that, and all I ask for your support is if you find these videos helpful, just please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.